up and you're there. Yeah. Go ahead, caller.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the 365 Message Center show. I've decided to sit down for this one. This is going to be a great show. We're covering a lot of items on Teams. We're going to be talking about Outlook changes and, of course, SharePoint News Digest emails. So let's just dive into it.
Well, must be a big job if you have to sit down, Daniel. Yeah.
I agree. It is it's a big job.
Yeah.
You know, somebody's got to do it. But yeah, it's definitely a big job today. So I sat down.
Hey, how do you think the format went last week? I'm asking you, but I'm asking those in the chat as well.
I think it went well. I think, we've definitely got some feeling out to do about how we handle this, because every week's going to be a little bit of a challenge one way or another. How do we filter, how do we grab those items that our listeners need to hear about and care about versus, or weighing that with, leaving things that are going to be left out and may be important for others. And so I think, that's going to be a struggle whether we cover every message or not. Because if we cover every message, we're going to have to spend less time talking about those items. And so, those things that may get left off in this kind of new format we're trying out, really, they probably would only get a little bit of lip service anyway, if we're covering every message. So we're, trying this out to see how it goes. I think it went okay. We obviously, we want to hear from our listeners about how they think it's going okay, how they think it's going okay, how they think it's going. We have the poll that's going right now. We'd love to hear from our viewing audience and our listeners. Just go to messagecenter.show/June poll. That's June as in the month, POLL. We'd love to hear from you. And it's just a few questions, so it'll only take you a moment to fill out. And we just want to get your feedback on how it's going. How do you think it went, Darrell, last week?
I felt better that we were able to get into some of these messages in more detail, because the deciding point for us was we were starting to see a lot of messages, and it was getting to the point where we might as well throw in one of those, those crazy YouTube videos where someone takes some text from Reddit and then just fires it at a robot reader, and all they do is rap with,
Okay.
It might as well have been that, that we were just going through things so quickly and not really able to offer a lot of depth to messages. So, but I agree, there are some things that we might pick that are not as important to others. Yeah, I don't know. We'll just keep toying with it.
But please let us know your feedback. Your voice is important to us, so please jump in and fill out that survey. messagecenter.show/June poll.
The fun thing with the new format is, rather than just reading from the bottom up and going through every message, it's now like, well, that's the one Daniel wants to cover. It's kind of in the... So let's see if we can find this one here. It's the one you said that was maybe, which you're definitely now doing.
Yes.
214, and that's for the group's support.
That's right. This is MC214928, and this is Microsoft 365 Groups, which, remember, we talked about a while back. They're being renamed from Office 365 Groups. Groups supports new methods to hide/show groups in Outlook and the address book. So in the title, you could tell there's two aspects here. One is showing in Outlook, and the other is showing in the address book. So there's PowerShell commands that you can issue to change how this works for your organization. One is hide from address lists, which is the GAL, the global address lookup, and then hide from Outlook clients, which is the left-hand navigation. If you create a group from Outlook, by default, it's going to show up for those members on the left-hand side under groups. And if you want to hide, if you want to show by default in Outlook clients, then you need to change this setting, hide from Outlook clients, so that they'll show, and conversely hide them. But what's confusing is they don't interact, these two settings, hide from address list and hide from Outlook clients. Meaning, if I am going to say I don't want it to show up in the address book, right? So if someone goes in, clicks on 2 and starts typing, I don't want them groups showing up as a possibility here. You can set that, and that's what that setting is if you go and look them up. And then you can show or hide the group showing up, like I said, in Outlook. But there is a gap here that I think organizations probably want to address, and that these settings don't address. And that is the gap where I am the type ahead. I'm typing in the name of a group. Neither one of these settings affects whether that group is going to populate in where I'm trying to send an email, or adding them to a meeting. It's neither one of these settings affect that. And I think that's a gap here. We're talking about, do we want to show the groups everywhere, or do we want to mix and match of whether you can look them up in the global address book or have them on the left-hand side? I don't know. I just feel like there's a gap here that's not being addressed. In that I can, even though I won't be able to, if I hide it, I won't be able to look it up in the global address book. I'll still be able to type in the name and use it, right? So, I don't know. Well, it's a bit
I've
confusing.
Got a question for you.
Yeah, sure.
Why hide them? Or another question: why are they hidden sometimes? This is Microsoft 365 groups. Sometimes you want to hide them. Sometimes they're hidden anyway. What's the reason for hiding a group? Whether it be in the list where you can find it in Outlook and use the shared mailbox and everything else that goes along with it, or within the address book. Why would you hide them?
Yeah, and I think the answer comes in the reason why Microsoft gave it the option in the first place. Remember, it depended on where you created the group, whether or not it actually even showed up in Outlook. So if you created this group and in Teams, for instance, then it wasn't going to show up in Outlook by default, right? And so I guess that the short answer is it depends on the use of the group, whether or not the group you want the group to show up. Because if you want communication not to be happening in Outlook and want it to be in Teams, then don't show it in Outlook. Because the two don't meet. And yet, if you think about that, what I mean by that is if you're having conversations in Outlook, they're not showing up in Teams unless you're adding the email address, the channel email address, to your email. And then it gets kind of weird because that whole process is not great. But
forwarding a message to the channel.
Yeah. So I think that's the short answer is the purpose of the group.
One thing that I thought of with this update, and I thought it was going to be a good positive thing, was that very challenge that if you're creating your team, your Microsoft team, if it's based on a Microsoft 365 group and you're turning it into a team, then it's come from a space or place where you've probably had people subscribed to the mailbox. And that means any activity that goes on within the mailbox is sent to your members. and I did a little video a while back about this, about answering that question. How do you make sure that a meeting invite is sent out to everyone? Now, there's another setting for that now, but this apparently, and I think it was an article from Tony Redmond saying that after a certain point, I forget when it was, but these groups that are hidden, which were teams, are not going to be affected by this setting. So take a look into that, because while this is a capability, it may not actually cover this scenario I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Anyway, we probably should move on.
Yes, I think the next one we want to talk about, Darrell, is mobile video, right?
Yeah, mobile video for sharing with from Yammer, which is something that we've been able to do for a while now. This is MC 215262. The app itself, you've been able to go in and say, I want to take a picture or a video. And I mean, I only know the iPhone experience of this, that when you hit your camera to say, I want to post something in Yammer with my camera, then I can choose between video or camera. I can take a short video and post it, and it happens directly from the app. But nothing extraordinary about that. Nothing really like, okay, it's a short video, great, it uploads, that's fine. But what's been added with this update is that you can edit this, annotate on it, make it a bit more of a engaging video, maybe draw some attention to something that's in that video by scribbling on it and saying, this is what I want you to look at. And we've seen this come in for Stream too. If you use the Stream mobile app and you want to upload a video directly to Stream, you've got the same tools. They've been there for a while. Perhaps they've borrowed some of their code there and brought it into the Yammer app. I think while this is good, it's interesting, like how people are when they post a video to a platform, Instagram, Facebook, whatever, TikTok, they think platform first, then they think video. They think, this is my community and where I am, I'm going to go in and use the video tool to make this post. And some of these platforms have given you really interesting, fun capabilities to make it quite engaging. But, I tend to encourage people to grab the video tool that is best for the job. Could be the inbuilt camera, video. Could be something that you've installed and run for other reasons. The trick is, like, how do I capture this moment quickly? How do I capture, who's this dude here? It doesn't really give him a name, but Robin Counts has captured someone using the grinder.
I think what you talked about kind of hits it on the head here. I think editing that video and being able to highlight things that are in that video are key, especially when the video is a broader scene, but you want to draw attention to something. And so I think that that is an important thing to keep in mind, is being able to edit that, the video in line. I think that's a good feature. But why Yammer? I mean, what are some of the really big points you think for why would I do Yammer? Why not Stream? Why not use some other video source?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's another interesting question too. And my observation is it's still the only platform that shows video in line with your conversation. As a conversation tool across the organization, they're encouraging the leadership side of things as well here to go in, to take a video, to share your story, to talk about maybe you're visiting a store or on a construction site or something, and here's Bob and he's getting into the work as well. He's wearing his blue collars today. But the thing about that is that the video is still a quick but full story of being able to tell that story. And we've seen some of our leadership experiment a bit with using the Stream app, and then they go to share the video. Where do they share it? Well, sadly, they shared it in email. Did it show any thumbnail? No. Did it show any kind of anything that makes me want to click on that apart from highlighted hyperlink text? No. Yammer has the inline video. It's there. Makes you want to click it. I don't know if we get to choose a thumbnail at this stage yet. Always find that fun when a video goes up and it grabs a frame that's probably either the first one or something really awkward. But yeah, it's about encouraging conversation, and I think it's an appropriate tool for Yammer. It's good to see the enhancements built into the app.
Agreed.
Yeah. So that is going to be available complete by end of July. So it's rolling out mid-June. Soonish.
Soonish. Yep.
Soonish. That's a word.
Yes. Okay. Soonish. It is a word. I've used it actually pretty often. It's not now. It's soon. Anyway, let's move on. Real quick, there's a message MC215375, which is about removing some Microsoft Teams channel system messages. And this is, again, just real quick, this is all about those items you see in the channel when someone gets added to the channel, whether it's a org-wide channel and they went into the channel, to join the team, or if they left, or someone, removed a user, you see all these messages. And frankly, it's annoying. I find it very annoying because it moves the real messages, the conversations that are happening. It moves all those up off the screen. And I just feel like those messages didn't really need to be there. Now, this doesn't affect whether they're going to show up in logs, so that you'll still be able to see that this happened from an admin perspective, but it's removing it from the channel so users don't see it. Now, I think there is some importance for users to be able to see who were members and who has been added and removed, but this is kind of going to not really make that information available to you anymore. Now, does anybody go back and look at that listing of, oh, they were added up there and now they're removed here? I don't think so. But so anyway, this is a great improvement, I think. I like this improvement. It's going to be rolling out standard release tenants beginning of mid-June, which is very soon, and complete by mid-July. And then government tenants should begin in mid-August and be completed by the end of August. So I really enjoy them calling out government tenants and when they're going to get it. So that's good job, team.
Yeah, well, there is a reason why I threw the messages in this order. Because you can still get to that information. Yeah.
Yes.
And I agree, like let's say you're onboarding another 30 people into this team. Up it goes. Lots of
you lose
gray
all the
space.
messages.
Lots of dark mode space if you use dark mode. Lots of nighttime. But it's, great. Welcome. I also encourage people or team owners that when they're onboarding people to a team, that they give that team a welcome, or that member a welcome, or a few people a welcome. Start a new post, call it out. Don't just leave it there as a such and such was onboarded. Congratulations. But yeah, that's good to see that it's been removed from the posts tab, so it's not crowding out a whole lot of conversation. It is being moved to a new feature called the Channel Information Panel. Ooh, it almost rhymes. There it is. MC215186. And this is a double banger with the update, because it is two updates in one. First off, that there is an information pane that's going to be added, and it's interesting they call it out as selecting channel info. This is an info panel but it actually comes down to the channel level, telling you what's going on in the channel. And so this is where, if you wanted to find out how many members there are of a channel, let's just pause and sort of maybe ask yourself, but also others in the chat. How do you define a member of a channel again?
Are we going to wait for their response, or?
Well, no, they'll respond 30 seconds later, and then
Right.
maybe 30 after that, after they.
How do you define a member? You mean how?
Member of a channel in a team.
Right, because there is a difference between a regular channel and a private channel, right?
There is that too, yeah.
And so I think defining a member of the channel, if it's not a private channel, is a member of the team.
Yeah, but I guess so, because every member can get to every channel if it's not a private channel. But there is this concept of, I'm interested in what's going on in this channel. And it's been toyed around a lot, this kind of language and concept. Once upon a time, it was called follow a channel. Now it's called show and hide. But that's been split out again to, I can show and hide a channel, and I can set notifications on a channel. What makes me a member of a channel? And the example I've got in this screenshot, there are 2,533 members of the channel. Maybe it's the general channel they're looking at. I don't know. A lot of members. So yeah, I mean, having that information could be useful.
And you're right. What defines a member is it, and maybe there's like 3 levels of membership. I mean, it's not defined in teams, but it's an active member who, has the channel shown. They're actually posting in the channel. There's maybe regular just members who don't really post that often. Maybe they're not even, showing the channel in their list. And then there's those people who maybe don't have it shown at all. They're a member of the team, but they've never even visited that channel, maybe. I mean, so yeah, you're right. There could be different levels of engagement is really what it is, right?
And that's the information that I'm looking for in a panel like this, which, the next piece here is quite useful. Who has recently posted? Who is active in the channel? And if that channel is structured around a certain work stream, then that person or the active people are those that are contributing to it and could be considered SMEs or people that are actually, working in the channel. That's useful. I want to be able to see who should I be engaging here, and how do I engage them, and maybe people that aren't engaging, how do I loop them in? So that's useful information. Now back to system messages being removed in the previous update that we talked about from the message center. Those system messages are now being moved into this information panel. So that's where you see at the bottom of that, the updates, that Jesse's added Pavel to the team. That's where it shifts. Good to see that it's still there. Nice to see something, and that it's not crowding out the actual conversation area. Lastly, pinned posts. Again, something that it sounded exciting. I thought this is good, because what do we think of with a pinned post? Often it is, I want people to see this conversation thread. I'm going to pin it as an owner of the forum or whatever, so people can see it, engage with it, it's highlighted.
Often like rules, or this is what this is for, this channel or this group is for. Yep.
Yeah, and those two purposes, it makes sense for where they are pinning them. Because the downside to this message is the pinned channel message is in the channel information pane. It's not in the posts tab where it will feature and you're going to bump into it. You actually have to open the channel information panel to see it, or pane. I keep calling it panel because it rhymes with channel. It's not pinned where it's obvious for everyone to see, which is the downside to this. And if it was a message to say this is the purpose of the channel, then that makes sense. it's with the channel information. If it is, I want you to see this conversation because it's really important that everyone engages and addresses it, this isn't really the right place to pin it. But you can pin it, or you can turn it off so that only team owners can pin and regular team members can't. Those are your options. Probably spent enough time on this message, but it's rolling out beginning of July, complete by mid-July for standard release. Another one about government tenants, that they will begin to receive it mid-August and be completed by end of August.
And those are the same timelines as what we talked about before about removing the system messages. So probably rolled out at the same time. That's a good guess there.
If we're moving it from one place, we're going to shift it to another. So let's align the two activities.
All right. So next, I want to just talk about two messages at the same time. Is that okay?
Well, yeah. I mean, I did, but it was still part of the same message. What are you doing?
So, two messages. Outlook for Windows roaming signatures. Okay.
Yeah.
And then Outlook for Windows introduces cloud settings. So the roaming signatures is MC215017, and then the cloud settings one is MC214927. So effectively, what we're talking about here is using Outlook for Windows, the Outlook app client on your machine, the Microsoft 365 app, whatever we're calling it these days, whatever the flavor. So if you're using Outlook,
it's just Outlook, isn't it?
It's Outlook. I call it Outlook. I don't know.
No, anyway, I'm just going back to that other campaign. Outlook is Outlook. Office is Office.
Right. Outlook for Windows introduces this cloud setting syncing. So what this is going to cover is if you go to options in Outlook for the advanced calendar, ease of access, general, groups, mail, people, search, task, all those settings are going to be synced across your devices, your desktop devices. So remember, this is Outlook for Windows, this is not syncing to mobile, this is not syncing for your tablet or Outlook for the web yet. Hopefully that will come. But for now, this is just Outlook for Windows. And so if I go from one machine to the other and I'm logged in using that same account, then it's going to have the same settings for me. I think this is great.
Absolutely.
If I set it up once, I want it to be the same over here. For things like, signatures is the first one I always think of, and that's that second message. So they're just kind of highlighting that roaming signatures is going to be available. So signatures, settings for, and what I believe will be included is dictionaries, meaning if I want to use a shortcut for, maybe I use 365 MCS, and I want it to type ahead for me to correct my spelling and have the full spelling of 365 Message Center show.
Mm-hmm.
Things like that. I want that to sync across all my machines, so I'm hoping that will sync as well. So we don't have a lot of detail on exactly what's going to be synced, but users can uncheck the box. There's store my Outlook settings in the cloud. Users can check that, and so that it won't sync those if they so choose. You can also, as an admin, overwrite this via a group policy to either disable or block the feature. So we have tools from our friends here, admin tools, to be able to turn this off if we want to. I struggled to try to figure out how or why, someone would want to turn this off. But I mean, one thing I did find is if you are using machines that you have them set up for different reasons, different ways, maybe you definitely don't want this turned on because you don't want to override the syncing or the settings if it's set up on one machine or the other. But I just really struggle figuring out why you would want to block this. Do you have any idea of why you would want to block?
I think you began to talk about the reason why. It depends on the setting. There are some things that globally I want to perform the same way wherever I'm working. And the example I always use here, and I'm really happy to see this update, is that I like to read my messages sort of first in, first out. And as I'm reading that message and I close it or I delete it or I action it, whatever, I want it to go from the message up, right? So in my list, I'm working my way through to the most recent messages that have arrived. That's one of the settings that I change within the mail setting of
Exactly.
Outlook on Windows.
Yeah, and how long it takes for it to be read, if you've got all that. Yes.
All those little customizations that make it suit the way that I work. And then you move to another machine and those settings aren't there. So really good to see this. I hope that we see quite a depth of those settings coming in, that it's almost an indication that it's cloud-powered group policy depth of control, maybe, which probably is already a thing. I've just been out of that loop for a while. But yeah, good update. What was the second one?
Roaming signatures, which is part of that, being able to set your signature once and having it propagate as well. So moving right along, we are there on time. So let's keep going. You have one about Teams Mobile, right?
Yeah. It's just a passing comment a bit here. Where are we? Teams Mobile. It is yet another communication tool that is adding suggested replies. Suggested replies, though, to Teams Mobile. It's MC215163. Quite specific here in where they're adding it. The mobile experience. This is often a place where if you are on the run, on the move, as you are with a mobile, then this definitely helps. You want to respond quickly to a chat, then it'll have a suggested reply. And the example that's given in the message itself is someone's having a chat and they've asked a question and there's a couple of suggested replies, 3 suggested replies at the bottom. Sure, okay, what time? It's looking at the text of that message. Someone's asking about availability for a meeting, want to catch up. And can we follow up the mobile experience? It feels like it's a developer of this particular feature that's having a conversation about the feature in this demo image. Fun.
Yes.
But yeah, the other side to this, and I've often said this when we're talking about the same kind of feature for Outlook, is that it starts to introduce the same tone. Maybe that's not a big deal if it's a single word, but sometimes I don't think it's the right time to use the word sure, because sometimes the tone of that response is, yeah, sure, Right.
You and this comes, I've had this conversation with many people I know about conversations over text. It is complicated, and I have on many occasions, you can ask my friends, and there's probably even some that are watching this right now that will tell you I have said something over chat, over text, and it's been taken in the wrong way, or maybe I wasn't expressing the thing that I was trying to say in a great way, because you have this conversation in your head, right? You're okay, this is how I'm going to reply, and if there's this suggested reply, and it's like, I'm really excited about this, and sure, yeah, but the receiver is like, oh, I bet Daniel is going to hate this. Oh, sure, is what I got.
Yeah, sure.
That sounds not as excited as I want him to be, and yet I'm on the other side going, yay. So,
do you think we need suggested emoticons?
Yes.
After we've said sure.
I think I'm okay with suggested replies in any case, except that I want to make sure that I can edit it before it's sent. So if I click on sure, I don't want it to send sure. I want it to pre-fill that in my message so that I can type something afterwards.
Right.
So I can say, sure, this is awesome, or something. Yep. Right.
But I don't think that's how this operates in the mobile.
We'll see.
Yeah.
I hope it is, but I think you're right. So that's where it's going to get. I think you have to test it. And this is my recommendation. This is the show's recommendation. People, test this before you start using it, because if you someone asks you a question, you hit no, but you want to give an explanation why, well, you may hit no, and then you're going to have to type this explanation why, and it may take you a couple minutes, and then by that time they're already mad at you.
Well,
Because
yeah,
you
there
say
is
no,
that.
whatever.
But that's an interesting dynamic there. You've just sent no, and you go, oh crap, I better look like I haven't quite finished. So let's keep typing and make those dots move so that they will wait. There is more to this no.
Well, maybe.
Yeah.
So
But
anyway.
this, yeah, the feature is going to be on by default.
Hmm.
You can turn it off in messaging policies if you want to make an org-wide decision to make people use their own words.
And
Find your
users can
words,
disable it too, right?
and users can disable it within the
Yeah.
mobile app. Yeah, you can turn
Yeah.
off smart reply suggestions in messaging section of the settings. Yeah, over to you. Maybe it's going to be helpful. I tend to use voice to text for quick stuff.
I do too. Yeah.
That helps.
It
That's
it
beginning
does
to roll. Sorry.
it does help, but voice to text is interesting when you're reading something and all of a sudden you say, you know, that's 4 by 9 actually, and people around you going, what?
Do your kids cut in sometimes when they know that
Like,
you're doing voice to text, and like I'm trying to respond to mum and they'll go blah 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 blah, and then the words will go over the top.
I will say there are some in my life who like to interject words when I'm doing that. Recently, I was playing a game, and with each round you tally points, and then at the end you have to add all the points. So instead of typing all out, I just use voice to text. 60 plus 80 plus 104 plus, and so I just do it that way to get the total. It's so much faster. But if someone interjects plus 100 while you're doing that, it shows up and gets added anyway. So
Yeah.
moving right
Well,
along.
yep. Last update.
Yes. Last update, and it's our title update, SharePoint Auto Digest Email, MC215356. And I think there's some interesting, you can just read the title here and get some interesting points. It's auto, meaning this is automatically, it's not something that, you're having to go in and check boxes on news and saying send me or whatever. This is automatically done. It's a digest of news that is in your organization, and we'll talk about some particulars here, and email. So people are going to get an email automatically that's a digest of news items. So it's on by default, rolling out mid-June, complete by early August. At one point here, it was just added to the roadmap 4 days ago. Same day we got it in the message center. So this is one of those where I want to kind of maybe wag my finger a little bit at the team. How about giving us a little bit more heads up? But it's going to be starting to roll out in a week or two-ish. So these news items are security trimmed, so it's not going to be, you're not going to get a news item in
They're
your
really
email.
particular about that, weren't they? In
Yes.
this message.
And I think it's rightfully so, right, Darrell? Because a lot of people go, oh, wait a minute, I don't want to see in search results, I don't want to see everything. Well, you will only see things you have permissions to. So I think this is a great way for your users to keep up with content that means something to them. And how do we know it means something to them? Well, it's because they're following that site. That's how SharePoint is determining what news items should be in this email
That's
are
the
you following
intelligence
the
part.
site? Yep, that's the part of the intelligence part.
Okay.
The other part is whether you've read it or not. So it's supposed to be keeping track of whether you've read it or not. So I think this is a great update. This is a great feature for users because, frankly, there's a inundation of information in organizations.
Nice.
Inundation of information.
Yeah, no, I heard that. Yeah,
Organizations.
you could just work on that rhythm there.
So we're having information thrown at us in all different aspects, whether it's SharePoint, email, Teams, Yammer, drive-bys, people stopping by and talking to us, whatever it is. We've got so much information, and frankly, we can't consume it all. It's unrealistic to think that we're going to be able to consume it all. So having this ability, I like it. Some people are going to hate it because it's email, and they hate email, and don't send me an email. I get it. But I kind of like this, getting this digest. Now, for those that hate email, I do have a solution for you, but I'll talk about that in a second. Users can unsubscribe. There's going to be an unsubscribe link. The confusion here is, what if I unsubscribe and then I want to subscribe again? What how do I resubscribe? I don't know if there is a way.
Good question.
So that could be interesting. We talk about user training and how we need to educate our users. Well, that's a big one. Maybe tell users don't unsubscribe or you'll never get any of these emails ever again. I guess. I don't know. Maybe we'll get a PowerShell command to turn it on.
It'll start with PowerShell.
Yes. Emails do come from that SharePointOnline.com domain, which frankly is I don't like. I'd rather it come in from my own domain. I know that they've had some issues rolling that out for organizations, being able to systems messages coming from your own domain. Your branding will not be included, at least from what's missing here. It doesn't include message or branding in this messages, which could be interesting for those organizations that use things like security images in their emails to make sure to help against phishing attacks and the like. So how do users know these are real emails? So some education around that. The last thing I'll say about this, I talked about how if you don't like email, how do you deal with this? You could create a flow in Power Automate yourself to say, when I get these emails, these digest emails, send me a message in Teams with the information or something, and then delete the email. You could do something like that if you wanted to. I'd like to see some more options. I know that's difficult, but I'd like to see some more options. Hey, instead of getting emails, send me hey, SharePoint, send me a message in Teams, a private message with this information or something like that. I don't know. There's some interesting ways that this could go. But anyway.
Yeah, it's always interesting talking these things through with someone else who thinks about it, with the community in the chat that thinks about it, people who talk about it afterwards. I think a good topic to dive into deeper would be how intelligence is beginning to become more prevalent in our communication and in what we see. We've seen it in selection of news, and that was it MSNBC? No, was it Microsoft News? And how they've now got bots that are going to be selecting and curating the news completely. They've let go a few people in that human role. We've got AI here choosing news based on some kind of intelligence that we're following a site. Hopefully it goes deeper than that eventually, that it looks at what I'm talking about in the different places that I do converse with people, and starts to deliver things that are talked about there. But will we see some people who are figuring out the algorithm and they're gaming the system, and how do I get my SharePoint news article up to the top and into everyone's AI that's delivered?
Well, I think the easiest way to get your information in these emails is to publish news items but not show it anywhere on your site.
Ooh.
So if everyone's following your site but they don't read it, then it's going to show up in this email. So don't add that web part to your homepage at all. And then no one will ever read your news until they get it in this email. Now, I think that's not a great way because as some people are pointing out in the chat, and I think rightfully so, I think the usage of these emails, people actually reading these, will you will have diverse applications. Meaning, I think there's some organizations that people will love these emails. There's other organizations that people will start marking these things like spam like crazy. So I think it really will. It'll depend on your organization. How this goes. So.
Well, there you go. That's a wrap, right? We've covered quite a few messages. Not all the messages, but again, a satisfactory level and depth. I think it's been.
Hopefully
another interesting show. Thanks to everyone who's joined in the chat and has enriched the conversation. It's good to always have that conversation there as people go back and review the video and the recordings later. Sadly, the podcast people don't get to see that. Maybe we could fire a voice reader at that, injecting the comments.
So I will say, as we wrap up here, please, listeners and viewers, go out to our poll, messagecenter.show/June poll, and fill out that poll. Again, it's just a few questions. I mean, a handful at most. Please give us feedback on the show, how you would like to see the show go in the future. Please give us feedback. Appreciate it.
All right. Thanks again. See you again next time. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.